This is Georgine Adams, the chair of the Environmental Management Commission, and welcome to our September 28th, 2022 meeting. I see we have a quorum of commissioners, so I am calling this meeting to order at 9:03 on my computer. Like to do a roll call of our commissioners here. From District 1, John Olson.
Here.
Wait, thanks, John. He's from District 4. I've got the wrong number or order on my little list. District 1 is John Burns. Say howdy, aloha. Good to see you. District 2, Elise Robinson. District 3, we have a vacancy, and if anyone's interested, recommend that you apply. We already hit District 4, John Olson. District 5 is Melissa Cardwell. Hi, Melissa. District 6 is Lee McIntosh. Lee. I believe Dee Olson from District 7 is out today. Is that correct, Peter?
Correct.
Okay. District 8 is Rick Gaffney. Aloha. And I am Georgine Adams from District 9. Also with us is Kira Wang, our Deputy Corporate Counsel, who will feel free to pipe up and correct me if I forget steps that I should be hitting. Our first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our August 24, 2022 meeting, and like a motion to approve with amendments. Maybe I should speak of the amendment. I noticed a correction that needs to be made, that a highlight and comment from drafts that Peter Sir and I were passing back and forth stayed in there from the pre-discussion. So that's on page 15, and Peter will fix that, I hope. So if I could get a motion with that change.
I move we accept the minutes with the change on page 15.
Thank you. A second?
I second it.
Melissa with a second. Any other changes that people spotted? I should say, oh, we left that in so we would see whether or not anybody reviews the minutes. But no, it was an oversight. Anything else? Not seeing any raised hands. Could I have a vote then on accepting the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. Hearing no opposition, the minutes are approved. Statement from the chair. It's been a crazy summer for me. Welcome to fall. I think there's a lot of energy that's built up. We'll hear perhaps some interesting testimony today, as well as a presentation. And the most exciting thing of all, a new solid waste division chief. Yay! I'm really looking forward to meeting Michael Rivera. So the next item on the agenda is statements from the public. And I saw your hand, Corey, that you wanted to make a testimony. On which item would you like to speak? And would you want to give it now or wait until we get to it on the agenda?
Now would be good. So just let me know when to go ahead.
Okay. And what part of the agenda you want to talk about? Which item?
I'm on number 7, number 1, EPA recycling infrastructure grant.
Okay. Do we have any other public testimony at this time? Or who would like to defer until our discussion?
No.
Yes, we have Roy Cadota in Hilo.
Roy Cadota. Okay, and which item do you wish to speak on, Roy?
The grant for the,
Okay, the
from the
grant.
federal government.
Do you want to
I'm
talk
sorry,
now
I
or
don't
wait?
know the number or anything like that.
That's okay. I understand which one you want. Do you want to speak now or wait until we get to it on the agenda?
Maybe I should speak now because I'm getting all excited and I'm getting, yeah, maybe I should get it over with and you guys can go on your different agendas, I guess. I'll stay by, but I'd rather get it
Okay.
over with, I guess.
At your convenience. Anybody else who wants to present testimony?
Jerry Warren.
Jerry, okay. And your item?
Roman numeral 722I, the Na'alehu. Or
Okay,
8.
all right. I have Jerry Warren on the list. Anyone else? You'll have another opportunity when we get to the item to give testimony at that time if you'd like. But let's go ahead with the three people who are preferring to give testimony up front here. So Mr. Warren, if you would give your testimony.
Jerry Warren in Na'alehu. I will read my written testimony, also printed in the Kona newspaper. Item 722I, the Na'alehu. Here's the letter. Na'alehu's sewer meeting was well attended. The community center and the ballpark parking lot were full. However, the major two-lane access road is still locked off by a makeshift fence. Barricade was constructed a long time ago by a disgruntled property owner after the county disconnected him from the. Nobody will tear down that fence. Several county vehicles were in the parking lot that night. None of those salaried officials work on emergency access, or public safety. Nobody's job. Ang cesspool meeting, the possibility of a wastewater package plant for the plantation subdivision finally revealed, but nobody said where the discharge water will go. Now they have a bigger can to kick down the road, the package plant. Emergency vehicles, I'll start over. Emergency vehicles get in and out of the Na'alehu ballpark. Treated water needs to come out of the package plant too. Nobody has these solutions. Sadly, Mayor Kim's 2004 plan for Ka'u has disappeared. Nobody can find his original promise to us homeowners. All of these nobodies stick together. That they can do. Please, Mayor Roth, please tear down the makeshift fence at the Na'alehu ballpark and clubhouse. Open the road. It's the least you can do.
Sergey, you're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Warren. Next, let's go to Corey. And Corey, I don't know your last name.
Oh, sorry, Corey Harden.
Okay. If you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm with Sierra Club Hawaii Island Group and speaking on the recycling infrastructure grant. First, want to thank you folks for your service on the commission. These are very long meetings and really appreciate your time and effort. And I hope for this grant that you'll build on the tremendous efforts of the Zero Waste Working Group and do all you can to ensure the county succeeds in obtaining this grant. I hope you'll recommend to County Council that they fund a grant writer to prepare an application if it turns out that the county departments don't have the resources to do the application. And I hope you'll also urge Council to fund a facilitator to organize meetings with stakeholders so the stakeholders can have coordinated efforts when the request for application comes out in a few months. As you know, we got garbage dumped in gulches and junk cars, overflowing landfills. And we really need a system that honors traditional cultural values, that will work for residents, even if they don't have cars and they're really pressed for time. And we need something that contributes to the local economy. This seems like a really do not miss opportunity, and it could create a model system not only for Hawaii, but areas elsewhere. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Roy Cadota, are you still excited? And you'd like to give your testimony?
Just where my phone might go on. So, but anyway, this is kind of impromptu for me as usual. I just learned about this grant a couple days ago, and apologize because I'm kind of doing a lot of things, but I know this is very important to the community of Hawaii, so I thought I'd join in whether I was late or I don't know, there was other things going on before this meeting, but I just as a recycler in Hawaii on the Big Island, I thought I'd come to testify that it is for recycling and I do recycling. So I kind of do pretty much everything at this time. I mean, from high five to metals to batteries to plastics to electronics. So I thought I'd better come to encourage the environment committee to help to get this passed, and because I think I'm pretty sure it's going to pass anyway, but it would be crazy not to get this grant. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's from the federal government, so it's crazy not to get the grant. And there's a lot of things that we need it for, such as I mean, you know, the plastics. I mean, we're burying the plastic right now in our Hilo site. So, and that takes a lot of trucks to get there. So we need to get that figured out. And the grant money would help us get it off the island, if not do something, you know, to have it worked out somehow with other, you know, some other companies who do that sort of thing. But we do need the grant, and we also need it for cardboard. I mean, the cardboard there's no money in cardboard, so we need a grant to get that off the island, or at least, but it should stay on island anyway. But the point is, yeah, we need money for some kind of recycling on that, as well as there's a lot of things. So I don't want to get into it at all. We just need to pass this. We need to get the grant money, is what I'm trying to say. I do electronics, and we just passed the law, so that part is, I think we are right for next year. I'm thank God that we got this law passed. So there's a lot of tonnage that's going to be out of Hawaii, the Big Island. So that's good. It's not the perfect law, but we can still fix it. So that's good about that. I just want to inform you about what's going on. And then as we're trying to partner up with as you know, I'm trying to help out the community as much as I can nowadays. I kind of talk now. I'm trying to help the community any way where I can. So, you know, grants for I mean, this law is for also reuse, but we need more grants anyway. But I think I'm trying to partner up with people in Kona to get a site there so they can collect at least every week or once a day. Our site in Hilo is fine, so I think that the electronics are fine for next year. But to get back to the main course, yeah, we do need that grant, and that's why I'm here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cadota. If there are no more comments at this time, we will proceed with the agenda. As items come up, I'll try to remember to ask again if anyone would like to testify at that time of the discussion. And we will be discussing the grant as a specific item, and encourage you to participate in that too. Our next item is unfinished business. Like to get a status report, just because I promised Ramsey I would every time, where the pre-treatment code update stands. And when are we going to get a chance to review it here? Is Ramsey there?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Georgianne. It's still in the same process. We're waiting from Malia to give us the green light to share it with you. Once we get that green light, the ball is in EPA and Department of Health. So once they review it, they give us their green light, we could share it with you.
Okay, we're anxiously awaiting it. Did somebody else have a comment? Next item, we told you last time that we would share the comments we sent in to the Cost of Government Commission. That's attachment 2 in the reference file. And if anybody wanted to add comments, according to Kira Wong, we still have some opportunity to provide more information. Not seeing any, just.
So Jean, could we, or Kira, could we chew on that a little bit more and email you comments, or do we need to present it at this meeting?
You can email me individual comments. The commission also meets every Thursday from 2 to 4:30. If you wanted to give public testimony, you can also show up virtually. It's a Zoom meeting, but either way is fine.
Okay.
I've got a comment. I read through the list, and the one thing that I didn't think that it made clear that I think it should is that this commission was created by a vote of the citizens of Hawaii County, unlike most of the boards and commissions in the county. And the question about the value of these various boards and commissions has been bandied about by this administration. And I think it's important to note that there are a few commissions at the county level which are established in statute, and they're not just a bunch of people meeting to talk. So I think we need to remind the administration and the council with our comments on this, that this is a basically one of the commissions that stands no matter what.
Got it. Kira, maybe you and I can come up with some language just to get that on the record. Is that okay? You're nodding yes, right? Good point. Yeah, don't fold us. You're stuck with us. Anything else? Okay, gonna close that and move to new business. Item 6.1. There is a new bill.
Sorry, Chair.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Is there any public testimony on any of the new business items? Okay, seeing none, you can continue. Sorry about that.
Okay, I was going to describe it and then ask. But go ahead and correct me on the right timing. So there's a new bill. We've been asked per requirements by the council to comment back to them on Bill 200, now draft 2, that deals with abandoned vehicles and a new program. And I forgot to ask Ramsey, or if anyone else on your staff wanted to discuss that bill, its provisions and pros and cons.
I don't know if Julian, but definitely this bill went through the first draft and successfully went through. It's definitely has great benefit to our constituents here on the island. We have presented it. Brenda had done the first presentation. I attended the second one. And the intent of this bill, currently we have disposal, we have towing, and we have the amnesty, which is the amnesty within our budget. We set aside about $200,000 for that program. When people call us, say we cannot afford moving the vehicle, etc., we go investigate it and we move forward with processing that vehicle with the Hawai'i Police Department. And usually that's only just cover the disposal, does not cover the towing, not the disposal. So the idea is right now with Bill 200 is to allow the towing and the disposal of vehicles outside the county right away. So we could be able to, based on the current budget, if we continue with the same budgeting practices, we probably could average additional 500 to 1,000 vehicle a year, averaging each vehicle about $600 per vehicle. That's for both towing and disposal on an average. Because as you guys know, we so decentralized some of the vehicles in maybe Kau districts, it may cost $800 to dispose and tow versus one next to the disposal company and scrap metal company, which is about $250 either in Hilo or the Kona site. So that at least it's a good thing. It's going to be based on first come, first serve, and availability of funding. The money is, it's going to be based on if we have surplus in the budget that particular year, so we can manage it to go toward that program. Definitely, as I mentioned during my last presentation, just to give you guys a heads up, $600 would take about 50 years to collect $600 because we only collecting $12 through the DMV, through the registration currently. So imagine there's no car could last 50 years. So eventually we need to come back and relook at the numbers down the road, not now, to be able to recoup some of that funds by increasing that rate. The last time that rate was increased in 2003, and it went from $4 to $12. My recommendation would be eventually we need to start including the consumer price index into these rates. So the consumers and the constituents, they don't get hit with a big number all at once. Increment increases over years, less felt than coming in and say, we're going to increase it by 400% or so.
Do you think that change is preferable now, or the fact that you've got enough money that you should be able to cover a fair amount as is?
It's a catch-22. We need to analyze it, make sure we never get into that hole. We always stay afloat. So the idea is if you draw in the curve, at one point that curve is going to start going down. So at that point, we need to come back and ask for the money to allow us to have enough. Because if it takes 50 years to generate $600 and the average car probably about 20, 25, 30 years, let's say. So that kind of tells you we at least need to double that amount. But just from, look at it from that point of view. But yeah, I think we're gonna monitor it this year and see how it goes. I know there's some expenditure that's gonna go toward building a facility in Hilo for the abandoned vehicles. That's probably is gonna be in the design process. We're going through the EA process currently. So, you know, the good thing is it's true that program has fund balance in it, but the fund balance also is committed for other projects. But we're going to try to manage and see how it works. And hopefully it goes well. If the steel prices goes up, scrap metal goes up, you know, we're working with Atlas Recycling to, they just invested money into new machinery. So the idea is, you know, our discussion with them is you guys need that feedstock, go out there and get it. It may not cost the county money, but we may end up taking some of the residuals out at the landfill from them as alternative daily cover and other materials that could be used through their processing. So that discussion is going on. It could be a win-win to the County of Hawaii and to Atlas if that works out. So you know, we're going to continue working with them, and if that moves forward, you know, we don't need to spend that $600 per vehicle.
Okay. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Comments?
I have a couple questions.
Elise Robinson?
Sorry. Yeah. Who is responsible for giving notice to the vehicle or adding the notice to the vehicle?
That would be the Hawaii Police Department, HPD. They go in and they red tag the car, and they call us. It's a partnership between our department and the Hawaii Police Department. So let's say if any of the constituents, you or somebody else, see a car within the right of way, or now with this law, with that bill passing, eventually we will call straight to, you know, DM, and we'll call the police department to go and tag it. And then that's how the process goes.
Okay. And last question, in your last painted a picture about how the county can also reduce the expense of towing the vehicle. Your vision is also to partner with local businesses that have a need for the resources of an abandoned vehicle, and let them know this is an abandoned vehicle, you can obtain it and dispose of it as you need to, instead of the county paying for the towing.
That is correct.
Okay.
Hopefully, yeah, that's our intent, and we already started that discussion with local businesses, so.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments, questions, Rick Gaffney?
Yeah, I've got a question for Ramsey. Do the automobile manufacturers pay anything toward recycling? We've talked about that with electronics and a number of other things. What does the automobile industry do in that regard?
I don't think currently any laws are allow them to do that. It's funny, this morning we attended SB 54 for California, which they just approved extended producer responsibility, and it passed in California. So I know our Rep. Lowen has been championing that as well. She said the first meeting with the California representative and Hawaii, our Big Island and the state of Hawaii representative to see if that also could maneuver into the state of Hawaii as well. But Greg, to answer your question, I'm not aware of any auto manufacturing baying into these recycling of these vehicles.
Thank you.
Any other, John Olson?
Yeah, in your crystal balling, are you going to start looking at the cost of things like getting rid of an electric car with a battery still in it? My understanding is that the batteries can be extremely problematic to deal with. So it might be a good idea to start thinking about how we're going to deal with that when they start showing up. So,
Yeah. John, that's a good question, given the history for these electric vehicle. You're right. They've been around not as long as the other vehicles, so we haven't got yet to recycle any of these electric vehicle, but it's a great question that hopefully between us and maybe the generator and the manufacturer of these electric vehicles, I'm sure they must have protocol of how to dispose some of their car components. In addition to that, our private business, such as Atlas and others, are also experienced in how to handle these different type of component as well. But yeah, it's a team effort between us and the private and reaching out to these manufacturers, especially on the electric side of the vehicles.
you might be able to glean some information from the insurance companies because the vehicles that get crashed, obviously the insurance companies end up with having to pick up the tab on it. So they probably, in terms of a first engagement, probably have already garnered some information about what to do with the broken battery.
Well, I think it's from my reading, it's a internationally recognized issue that is only going to blossom as more and more people buy electric vehicles. Ditto on solar panels. I know you're going to have some growing amount of really nasty, but environmentally green battery issues and materials and being tackled. And then we've got, so it'll be addressed, I think, at a national, international level, but we've got the added, we're an island in the middle of the Pacific. And so we're going to have that extra challenges, I think. Councilman Tim Richards is with us and has his hand raised. Did you want to comment, Tim?
Yeah, Chair, thanks so much, Georgine. I just wanted to echo what Ramsey has said. Having these conversations now with to your point, Georgine, with the photovoltaic panels, what do we do with the rare earth metals when these come to end of life? This is a conversation ongoing with the power grid, with HELCO, and have already started these conversations with our federal legislators as well as our state legislators, because we don't have an answer yet, but this is not an unknown, and you're exactly right. This is something people are looking back and recognizing that, yes, the energy generated is green, but what we have poses some real potential toxicity issues, and we have to come up with a plan. So it is being discussed. I just wanted to echo that.
Thank you. I see your hand, Lee McIntosh.
Commissioner McIntosh, I have two questions. For does the county pay for legally disposed of vehicles or only for the abandoned vehicles?
Well, they're only abandoned vehicle. If it comes through the county system, we pay for it. So we have to process it. If we process it through either within the county right away or under this new program, the county would cover both. But if it doesn't go through our process, no, we don't pay for it.
So then necessarily it wouldn't be, you wouldn't need to raise the disposal fee, because out of all the vehicles registered, only a certain amount are abandoned, and it takes only instead of 50 years, it only takes 50 registrations to cover an abandoned vehicle disposal. So I don't think it'd be necessary to focus on, I mean, you could raise it a little bit, but I mean, I don't think it needs to be raised $600 to cover the entire amount, because when I dispose of my vehicle, I'm gonna do it legally. I'm not gonna leave it by the side of the road. So essentially I'm paying for someone to illegally dispose of their vehicle. I mean, 12 already, it's, the registration is pretty high. They doubled it and never lowered it when they said they would. But my other question is for for the for this new bill that's being passed for the county to dispose of the vehicle, the abandoned vehicle. Are the past registration fees and interest waived? Because I know I've talked to some people in the past and they've said that in order to dispose of a vehicle, for whatever reason, they let it expire and sit for 3 or 4 years. They first would have to pay all the fees to the county, bring it up to, so it's all paid off, and then they can dispose of it. So of course, they're disposing of a vehicle, they're not gonna do that. So that was my other concern.
Yeah, Lee, the intent was not to raise it up to the 600. If I was thinking more of consumer price index, annual, increase to the current rates. Because you're right, you cannot just go and raise it 600. So we're looking at probably a couple dollars here and there. Because it takes about, 30 years for a car probably to be disposed of. So the idea is, yeah, you have to look at the mathematics of it and analyze it where, the potential number of vehicles that's going to be collected, disposed of versus new vehicles on the road versus how many ones going to become disposed. So there's analysis that could go to it to determine, but the intent, it's a small increases over the year rather than come back and do a big lump sum increase like they did in 2003.
Could you address his second question, though, that are we just giving incentive for people to abandon their vehicles and then give you a call after a couple of years?
Well, it's not an incentive. It's if there's cars need to be towed and disposed of, and there's some private entity that could use that scrap metal to make money out of it, it's a win-win. Get it out of the roads for the sake of beautification of the island. So hopefully it doesn't, if people got bad vehicles and, and it's not operating, it's not in operation and it's just being an eyesore, eventually we need to get it off the island. And for the sake of our island and the beautification of our island.
Are there any comments, or Lee, you have follow-up?
Yeah, another question came up. This is only for abandoned vehicles. So I know it also mentioned a vehicle on a property as well. The landowner could call it in. Would this also apply to, like, say if someone was going to fix up some vehicles, they never got around to it, and so now they have 3 or 4 essentially derelict vehicles, would they be able to call the county to remove them, or do they have to go through a different process to get rid of them?
Well, we allow 2 per parcel per owner a year, so we're not gonna take.
Okay.
The bill is very clear and the current ordinance is clear. It's 2 vehicles per year. But the idea is, yeah, if they call us and we go in there and investigate the car fit the criteria and it's accessible to the contractor to be able to haul it and tow it, yes, they could meet that criteria and that program applies to them. If they want to, they have to consent. They want to get rid of it. We're not gonna go to private property and start picking up vehicles. That's not the intent. The intent, if people cannot afford it, they have a couple vehicles or one vehicle within their property, they want the county to assist them in under this program, would do so.
But there's also the current amnesty program.
Right, it's similar to the amnesty, but now the amnesty is gonna be tow and dispose. Because currently it's only one function, not two. So you're right, Georgia. It is kind of expansion of the current amnesty program.
Are there any other questions from commissioners? Melissa?
I just had a question. Are people ever fined for illegally dumping cars on the side of the road? Or no?
They never, but there's a law that passed this year where it's gonna allow the finance director to go after the registered owner of that vehicle and collect the cost of towing and disposing and processing that vehicle. So hopefully that would discourage people from putting their vehicle in the county right away and abandon it and walk away.
Right.
Now they're gonna be tagged with a big bill once they go and they renew their driver license.
Okay. And then my other question was, do you know just on average the number of cars that are dumped illegally every year?
Well, here we've been averaging about 2,000 vehicles on the island on average.
Okay. And do you know if the number of registered owners, because I would think 2,000, you said times 600, right? Is the average cost of dealing with so then that would be what, $120,000? Is that right? So is that covered by the overall, registered owners every year?
Well, the program picks it up. Let me clarify. We average about 2,000 disposal, about maybe another 1,900 to 2,000 in towing per year within the amnesty. Yeah, so we're looking at 280. So an average between disposing, towing, and the amnesty program, we're looking at 4,000 vehicle per year.
Okay.
Because remember, it's disposal versus towing, so it's
right. Okay.
I have a comment. Sorry.
Oh, 1.2 million, right? Okay, yeah.
I'm curious if the bill also may not cover renters. So I'm thinking of a scenario where it's not the property owner that has a bunch of abandoned vehicles on their property, but the renters would not be able to apply for assistance because the owner of the property needs to make the call, or the owner of the abandoned vehicle, which may not be the renter.
right. I mean, the owner is going to make the call. We cannot just go around and decide which car we're going to pick or not. And they're going to have to give us consent to even get into their property.
Melissa, did you have another question?
No, I'm just stretching, but I was going to put in the chat that I'd like to request a bathroom break soon.
Okay. What I'd like to do is unless there are other questions on this topic, ask for a motion to support the proposed bill as written, or amend it and then tell me how. And would anyone care to offer that motion?
So moved.
Okay, John, a second?
Second.
Pick one. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do we need to roll call this, Kara? I don't even know. Okay, good. Any opposed? Okay, we will prepare a letter to the council in support of this bill. Thank you very much. And I will give a bathroom break and then we will resume talking about our additional new businesses and then jump into our big topic. So please be back here by 10 o'clock. So start recording. Hi, welcome back from bathroom break. We're missing a couple, but I believe we have forum and can proceed to item Roman numeral 6.2 new business. Comment was made at the last meeting about we need to track and see and do follow-up on all these great recommendations that we've given to the council, to the mayor, and to DEM. And we used to, EMC used to have a tracking spreadsheet trying to make sure that we weren't letting things fall through the cracks. So the comment was, let's get back doing that. I'm certainly willing to work with Peter to come up with a spreadsheet and we can have it as a routine report out on if there's anything that's been in the bin too long. If other people have ideas, we do have a template from before that we could use. If you think that's a worthwhile process. I'm not sure we need a motion on it, but I'd like to get some consensus discussion. Yeah, we ought to do that.
Yeah, we ought to do that. I think it would help me to stay organized and there's so many things that are going on. And you know, whatever's the loudest issue is where we all put our attention, and sometimes things get pushed to the bottom of the stack. I'm curious if we should, for example, the vehicle disposal bill, do we keep that even after it goes into effect on the tracking process to see what comes of things after that? Or, you know, or do we take it off? When do we take actions off the list? Once it goes to council or once it becomes something? But is there any, do we keep it on indefinitely to see what the results actually are?
Well, one of the columns that we've seen, and I think we need to have is follow-up, and it's kind of what's the status of follow-up. And if we identify up front that we want to see that this actually is being implemented, or we need to check in after X number of months to see what the program's about. I think we could include that on the tracker.
Like a date or a future.
A date and say, let's do a check-in. Maybe we'll ask if it's a DM thing, we'll have a request that they included on their director's report, for example.
I think that's a great idea. I'd also suggest that we add names to the follow-up too.
And you're volunteering. I will. We'll come up with a template and some of the issues, at least that I recall during my tenure here, for comment next time. And I'll put a column in for who is tracking this for us. I appreciate that.
That'd be great. I don't think it should go all on your shoulders either.
Well, I mean, one of the beauties of there being 9 of us is that and it's both the beauty and the beast. It never goes away. It never, ever, trust me. I mean, the abandoned vehicle is where this organization was born, literally. This is what started the movement to get this on the ballot, was the abandoned car.
Yeah, and so I
And white-
think
and-
part of
and
it is,
white goods. And
yeah,
white goods.
part of it is figuring out, okay, what is the sequence? Is it 6 months? Is it every year? Is it every month? Is it every day? What is the follow-up that we should be doing on individual items? And then not only when, but what? What's a response that we make sure we've got it as a discussion item or set up a new pig to deal with it. Any other comments from people? So I'll go ahead and work with Peter, and because unfortunately he'll have some of the burden of describing and putting stuff up, but we will present that to you next meeting, okay? Nod? Yeah, okay. Third item on new business was identifying future meeting dates. We've had challenges in particular with John Burns teaching classes, and I assume you're away from classic again, and wondering if we need to move off of Wednesdays, go to Thursdays, which I think is what we were. We still had the issue of conflicts with council meetings, and we didn't want to overlap if there was likely to be anything we should be attending there. Comments, thoughts? Anybody have any restrictions? They just can't do it. Melissa?
I wonder, this might overcomplicate it, but I wonder if we could alternate days. So for instance, we do the last Wednesday of a month, we do the last Thursday of a month, because I imagine between the 9 of us, because some of us, we work, and so it's hard, like Thursday wouldn't work for me, for instance, because I work all day. So I wonder if that would be a compromise so that John would be able to come, some Thursdays, and I don't know. That's just an idea, because I just imagine that I know it's hard with 9 people to get one day that's going to work for everyone. So, but if we alternate.
Did my computer froze? Is everybody, I see some movement. Is that something that appeals to people?
I mean, that would work for me, just in the sense that I'm happy to leave it to a vote and whatever everyone agrees on, but it is, yeah, it's really, I can only cancel so many classes. So if it's on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I mean, again, it's just that it's going to limit my involvement, but if it can't be moved, it can't be moved. I just wanted to put it out there to see what options are available.
No, it's fair.
Would the afternoon be better for you, John? Or it's just no?
No, it's just Tuesdays, and well, it's the issues I teach Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like that's the block I have. It's subject to change, but it's highly unlikely for the next few years based on the courses I teach. So I'm just filled in basically from morning through afternoon with small little breaks between those. So yeah, unless it's a Tuesday or a Thursday, I just can't attend without having to cancel classes and rearrange that schedule, which is limited in how many times I'm able to do that per semester.
I mean, right now, I don't know if your schedule's likely to change, Melissa. Would Tuesday work? Are there too many overlaps with council, Peter, on Tuesdays?
Every other.
I can hardly hear you, Peter.
He said he could move the schedule to the alternating on Tuesday.
Comments from
I
any?
could do Tuesday morning, but I wouldn't be able to stay for the whole thing because I work on Tuesday as well. That's what I mean.
Is Thursday better?
No, not for me. Thursday's out for me. That's what I'm saying. That's why I offered up the alternating idea, because I think, there's just gonna always be a day where one of us, I imagine, can't come.
This is Commissioner McIntosh. I would prefer we just pick one day and we stick to that for keeping it consistent, because it would be confusing, I would think, at least for me, switching different days throughout the month. It would be hard to keep up.
Yeah, it's nice having a routine. So you don't forget or let your calendar autofill it, and then you've blown a meeting. One question came in on pick a non-council week on a Tuesday. And Melissa, you might be there for part of the time.
Yeah, that would work.
If you change it to Tuesday or Thursday or Tuesday, I will miss the first few months of the year. I've already scheduled out things for the first quarter, but it's only the first quarter, and I can adjust after that. Sorry. Sorry. I started planning ahead. So.
No, I mean, it's fine. And we have, new people and unfortunately, one of the things that I just realized, we're going to be losing 2 members, and who knows when the new appointments will be able to meet as well. Maybe what we could do is, Peter, let's you and I go offline and do an every other Wednesday, Thursday, every other month, and see how that works. I mean, one of the challenges also is for Peter finding a room where he can book. And we'll lay out maybe a couple proposals at next meeting. Okay? Because I don't think we're going to be able to figure it out here.
Chair, if I may, just briefly,
Yes.
if the intent is to create a permanent change of the EMC schedule, then that would result in a rule change, since the rules say that the commission will meet on the 4th Wednesday of every month. I mean, if it's just a temporary thing, I'm not as concerned, but if we're looking at long-term for a permanent change, then we have to take a look at the rules and amending them. But we can get there when and if that is decided to change permanently. We can do a pilot first to see how it works out, though.
Okay. Well, I guess what I propose, and in fact, there's been a request on the November meeting. Our secretary is going to be out on the date that we've got scheduled. And so whether we could make a 1-month change to the 30th in November. So again, I guess what I would propose is that Peter and I will come up with a couple of options and we'll fly it out there to see what might work. Okay? Okay. Number 3, that was number 3. Okay, moving on to reports and correspondence. We did have a request and multiple testimony filings. I hope you had a chance to read under Roman numeral 7.1 regarding the EPA infrastructure grant. I'll ask again, is there any member of the public who wants to make comment, testimony on this item? Otherwise, we'll go to Jennifer Navarro from I'll get it wrong again, Zero Waste Hawaii Island, to discuss what she put together on behalf of an interest group for information that EPA was trying to get before they actually issued this request for grant applications. So Jennifer, if you will take it away.
Thank you. And I do have a presentation. I think I can share my screen for this one. All right, thank you so much for having me here today to present on this report that we put together. And the intention behind this was to prepare the county to go after this EPA grant funding for recycling infrastructure. I just want to thank the commission also, because I do for the last 3 years have been either attending or listening to the meetings. And much of what I know about what's going on with the solid waste situation in the county is because of these meetings. And I think in and of itself, if that's one of the benefits of having this commission. So diving into this particular grant opportunity, it is a new grant program that is coming from the bipartisan infrastructure law funding that was recently passed by the Biden administration. Money will be doled out $55 million per year over 5 years, starting this next fiscal year, at $275 million total. Hawaii County is in a really good position to receive these funds because 40% of the funding will go towards rural and socioeconomically disadvantaged communities. And we meet those criteria. Hawaii County has one of the highest levels of poverty in the country. And we also have the majority of our population living in rural areas. So just to give a little bit of background on how this report that we put together for the EPA came together, as Georgine was saying, that it was kind of a unique thing that the EPA put out a request for information to determine how to design this program that best meet the needs across the nation in terms of improving recycling infrastructure. And so myself and other community members started to meet informally with Department of Environmental Management, with Senna and Brenda, just to talk about the department's capacity to go after this funding. And through that process, we learned about the RFI and decided that we didn't only want to include the information or the knowledge that we had as a group, but to put that out as a question to the community. And so we developed a survey. DEM was involved with the development and approved that survey, but because of staffing issues, they weren't involved with the final drafting and approval of the report. So we removed them as an author. This survey that we did went out in June, and it loosely followed the questions that the EPA was asking for that request for information. We had a pretty good turnout of respondents to the survey. 76 individuals responded, and these are the entities. This graph shows the different entities that submitted survey responses. They're mostly businesses, some nonprofits, educational institutions, individuals, community associations such as the homeowners association types from housing developments, mostly down in the Puna area, state and local government, some farmers, and a military installation. This graph shows the barriers. So one of the questions that the EPA was asking is, what are our barriers that are preventing recycling and reuse in the county? And so I think that this graph is not a huge surprise. It shows that the number of respondents that indicated that particular item was a barrier to recycling and reuse. And so facilities was number one. Specifically, warehouse and storage space is a real barrier that we have on our island to reusing and recycling materials. Also, I think we're no stranger to the fact that our collection systems are pretty inadequate within the county. That's a huge barrier. A lack of end markets, both locally and internationally. And then policy and staffing also came in pretty high ranked. We also found in the responses to the survey some social justice and equity issues around our current systems in Hawaii County, particularly our collection systems disproportionately rural, low income, and houseless communities Our systems are very inconvenient. There's limited availability and a lot of times long distances to facilities to drop off recyclables, especially for people living in rural areas. And also people that don't have vehicles, it's a real challenge, and time, as Corey Hardin was mentioning earlier in her testimony. The other thing I learned in putting this report together that I wasn't quite aware of is that there isn't a hauler that offers a recycling service for the commercial industry. There's only one hauler on the whole island that does offer recycling pickup services, and I don't think they service the commercial industry. They just do for residents on the west side. And so that's a huge barrier. Also, the responses to the survey showed something that I was unaware of, but landfills and other waste management systems are often located on Hawaiian homelands and lower income communities. And also concerns were raised around the unlined Hilo landfill and the potential for that leachate to contaminate groundwater and marine environments. This graph just simply shows the types of materials that respondents to the survey were currently recycling, which I think mirrors really well the availability of those programs that are in place. So we have, I think our High Five program for beverage containers is really well run and available to people. There's also that deposit that incentivizes people to turn in those materials. And so that was the most utilized program, as well as cardboard and glass, which are our county programs where we collect recyclables at the transfer station. We put out a couple of questions just to kind of gauge interest of different stakeholders in working with the county. We asked if businesses would be willing to change their practices if they could make money from recycling. 66% were willing to change, and 18% were willing to change depending on the cost to transition. Some organizations that filled out it wasn't really applicable to what they do, but I think it shows it's encouraging to see that people are willing to change their practices. Also, we asked if individual or respondents would be interested in receiving a contract from the county to divert materials, and pretty good response rate. 40% would be interested, and 26% potentially interested. And then we also asked about interest in collaborating with the county to apply for this EPA grant funding. 72% of respondents were interested in some capacity with collaborating on this opportunity. There's a really long section of the report that goes into the different types of waste that we're dealing with here in Hawaii County. I can't go into detail here, but I encourage people to look at the report. This was really based on my knowledge and Ellen Okuma. We were the primary authors on this document. So it's not, it's what we know. Some of it came from the responses to the survey. So it's really a launching point for discussion rather than, being like, this is what we need to do. And so it should be read in that context. But we did evaluate green and food waste, single-use plastics, construction and demolition debris, textiles, single-use glass, slaughterhouse, agricultural waste, and abandoned vehicles. And I think that part of the document really looked at how can we create local end markets for a lot of these materials, as Georgine was mentioning, and we hear all the time, we are an island out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And so as much as we can shift towards local end markets, I think that's better for the environment and better for us to utilize these resources. We also highlighted a vision of how we might get to a future where we're diverting more waste in Hawaii County. I think the idea of circular economy is becoming relatively mainstream in the state, and really looking at how do we redesign, how do we reduce and reuse and recycle so effectively that we're not really landfilling much waste at all. And one way that we could potentially get there is through creation of resource recovery parks. This is a model that's being done in other parts of the world. And it's really kind of a one-stop shop where materials can be dropped off and processed. So, as this picture shows, there's a place for construction and demolition materials. There's a repair and reuse center. We could have a place for recycling textiles and plastic or whatever. It's kind of, that would be built out in terms of like what we need and what makes sense. Probably makes sense to have at least 2 of these facilities on the island, one on the east and west side. And I guess we we go from there to figure out the details. There's also interest expressed on workforce development opportunities, especially for youth and justice involved, and also interest in this vision of a waste to wealth initiative, which has been done in other parts of the country, where waste is essentially used as a resource that generates revenue, and then those monies can go back into the community for social programs, which is a huge need here in Hawaii County. We also talk a little bit about policy in the document. Here in Hawaii County, majority of our waste is getting landfilled, and if you look at where our budget is set up, it is set up where the majority of funding does go to landfilling waste. So I don't think it's any surprise that that's what we are doing with it. I know there's a lot of conversation in these meetings over the years on, how can we better fund our diversion programs? And there's, we talked about pay as you throw and collecting point of purchase disposal fees. And I think those are good ideas. But I wanted to highlight a policy that I recently learned about. It's a stop waste program out of Alameda County in the Bay Area of California. And they've set this policy up to take money directly out of the tipping fees and then funneling that into different diversion programs. And I do have a contact there. If the commission has any interest in learning more about this policy, I can, connect Georgine with that person. And then the other issue of policy that we need in Hawaii County is really some diversion requirements. Right now, there is no requirements, even very toxic things. There's no ban on landfilling those materials. And so what we've seen out of California, who's really led in the nation in terms of really good solid waste management programs, the policies kind of precede and incentivize the move towards creating better diversion programs. And so I think that's something we really need to think about doing here in Hawaii County. Finally, just wrapping up, how do we get towards this vision of, zero waste, diverting the majority of our resources? And I think that the discussions that we've been having, in these meetings that have been talked about are the need for public-private partnerships. And also the need, the work that goes into that is the need for this stakeholder engagement and bringing the people that filled out this survey together to start hashing out what do we really want to do and how do we achieve that. Also, I want to highlight that the EPA is really looking for a coalition type approach to fund. They're seeing a lot of consultants doing feasibility studies, and then those programs are not actually being implemented. And so having a coalition approach here in Hawaii County will be a benefit to us in creating a proposal and actually getting funded. And just finally wrapping up, it's been a pleasure to work on this document and work with the people to put this together, but I do feel that we've kind of taken this as far as we can without the county's involvement. We lost my train of thought, but yeah, mainly our ask is to hire a facilitator, and we have identified a person that's well qualified and experienced to do this. Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The county has to be the applicant, right? It can't be a nonprofit. The county or the state have to be the applicant for this opportunity. So really, the county, we would love to see the county take a leadership role in this and coordinating, and and doing it ahead of the request for applications coming out this fall. If we wait until that request for application comes out, we probably won't have that much time to really coordinate and get a proposal together. So we would love to see county council, if they can come up with funding to hire a facilitator. As I said, we have identified a person that is qualified to do so, as she's familiar with this report and also with solid waste management issues. And then also, if there is a need and a lack of capacity with DEM or with R&D to apply for this funding on their own, that perhaps the county council could fund a grant writer for this opportunity. And with that, thank you. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, if you want to stop sharing your screen. Okay, great. Thank you, Jennifer. A lot of work went into that report, and lot of valuable information in it. So I just wanted to clarify your ask at first. So you're talking about facilitator for public meetings to get ideas, not once we get the grant, a public facilitator to get public input?
I think that just a starting point, we kind of feel like one meeting to get these respondents to the survey together to kind of start brainstorming, coming up with, goals and objectives ahead of it would be good. And then obviously further stakeholder engagement would be necessary. If you look at the report, like I kind of was like, oh, we need to do a lot of planning. Like this is something that you guys talk about all the time. There's a lot of planning that goes into doing something new, but we don't know, maybe the EPA is going to allow that type of funding or, fund that type of work, but we won't know until the request for information or applications comes out. So to answer your question, it would be nice to have some in-person meetings ahead of the request for applications coming out, and then, further funding for more coordination with the coalition would be helpful.
Second question, and anybody can jump in, Sana, if you've heard anything. This fall is next week. Any clue on when they're going to issue this grant solicitation?
All I've heard is that they're going to start doing some webinars coming up in the next few weeks, but when the actual RFA comes out, we don't know. It's vague, right? It's this fall.
Okay. I guess I have to say this because I think I still am on the Solid Waste Advisory Commission that spent 2+ years working up the Integrated Solid Waste Management Plan, which was a public process, although we didn't get a heck of a lot of public participation. We had some, and the committee was made up of the public. There's a lot of stuff. We made 82 recommendations. Tailoring or selecting which things to work on within that plan, I think to tailor it to this particular orientation on the grant, I think could work pretty well. Starting the ISWMP process all over again does not appeal to me. But I think there are, at least from my viewpoint, a couple of good suggestions that we could say pretty much track with what's in the ISWMP. And in particular, the ones that I lean toward are somewhat represented in a grant application that DEM and COH and I don't know who else, Senna, you could describe. We put it in the reference folder. I don't know if people had a chance to look at it. Part of the BBB grant effort, and maybe Senna, you'd like to describe that. So a grant application did go in, and as we understand it, did not get accepted. Also for everybody, this infrastructure, recycling infrastructure grant is up for every county in the country. So a lot of competition here because everybody wants free money. But Senna, talk about what you had pulled together already for an EPA grant.
So thanks for the presentation, Jennifer. It was good, you guys, and thanks to you guys have done a lot of really good work on this. The Build Back Better, and I have to assume that I sent that to you, Jennifer, as well as the rest of the zero waste community. So back in January, when I first started my position as recycling coordinator, I was invited in to participate in DEM's part of the coalition for County of Hawaii. They, back sometime last year, had applied for and got phase 1 of the Build Back Better. I think it was like 60 out of, I want to say 350 or 400 applicants around the country. So County of Hawaii was awarded phase 1 and with a pot of money with that. And there's been some work that's been ongoing, currently ongoing now with respect to organics recycling. In January, as I said, I was invited in to draft, basically work on looking at what the needs are, but from my perspective, from our perspective, as far as in the community. So we put together our proposal. I think there's like 8 or 9 members in the coalition of the Build Back Better submission from the county. One of the asks for me, most importantly, is a database and a database manager, someone to initiate and develop the database, because we currently, the only data that we track currently is the data from our county programs. I guess years back, there used to be some mechanism in place that that businesses and private recyclers reported to us, so we would have accurate data on how much we're actually recycling. Because when you look at our programs, our diversion rate is maybe, I don't know, 21% or something. And I know that there's a lot more than that is being recycled. So I just think that, data-driven decision-making is really important. Also, reporting metrics, when we apply for grants, if we don't know where we are, how can we look at where we're going? And reporting, by having data metrics in place. So that was one of the asks. It was another ask was a position for that, because these were big grants, and staffing was allowed a position for that. There's an outreach position that's similar to the foods, but I don't know what it is. So Sarah Freeman's position, like a food security position, food program, that basically is a resource coordinator that literally networks and ties literally what you've been doing, Jennifer, in a unpaid position, but just someone that pulls together and sees what's out there, whether it's connecting C&D from here to go there, whether it's talking about grants, and holding holding monthly meetings, just to keep the community and government and NGOs all talking about the same thing. And so we're all moving toward the same goals, because we have some differences, but the same goals. We want to divert materials from the landfill and reduce production in the first place. So that was another position. Another position was actually kind of a smaller database, but that was more literally people posting things, kind of like the Free Cycle. There's some website that's kind of managed like a Free Cycle, so you can always go wherever. And there's some on Facebook, but this would just be a bit higher level, because there is an existing database out there that would work really well. And the other position escapes me. Georgine, maybe you can help if you remember what it was.
Well, I think it was, like you said, this kind of resource exchange network coordinator. Not sure the other thing was specific to it, but we have been talking about upgrading KL and Hilo reuse centers, and the concept that was presented in your paper, Jennifer, of the resource recovery parks, I think is a wonderful model to see if we could pull that off. And we could do it in a phased way for, say, pick KL and improve that resource center and start building it out with this person who knows how to make connections as a recovery park. We need money for land, building, and to make it safe to drive through, but to work on it over time to see how we could actually manage a recovery park and plunk it in the poorest neighborhoods that we've got on the island, so it would meet a lot of those criteria that we believe are going to be in this grant. So there are some ideas, I think, that have already been developed that could be put into this next grant application. But certainly there are plenty of wish list things to do. I see some more comments. I'd like to go to Melissa Cardwell, please. I see you.
Ellen had her hand
Okay, defer
up
to
first for a
Ellen.
while, so I'll go. Yeah, I'll defer to
Yes.
Ellen.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Aloha, everyone. I'm Ellen Okuma, and in my retirement, I'm spending a lot of time working on projects, and this is one of my absolute, it's really a labor of love working with Jennifer and Senna and the others who helped get this going. I would advise that the report be read. There is a lot of information already in there. It's as of now. It's not in the past. We need to get the 76 stakeholders together. They spent a lot of time in giving their feedback and telling us what they need. We've got farmers on volcanic soil that have no amendments unless they purchase things, and that's just crazy. We need to be diverting food and organic waste, cardboard, all of that can be kept on island. That's just one example. So we really need to get the stakeholders together. At some point in the future, it would be fine to open it up to the public, but we owe it to our 76 respondents, and many of them were farmers and small business owners that took the time to fill out the survey and give us ideas and lots of comments, and they're not undoable. If you follow the Northeast, I can't remember, I think it's NHERC, but the Northeast rural states have an excellent coalition of member states and counties that are participating in all kinds of resource recovery endeavors. And some of us have been attending those webinars and getting good information. So it's not that it's not being done, but we cannot afford to wait. We are an island state, as you've said. We need to start keeping our resources here on the island. So rather than shipping cardboard off, shipping glass off, that single-use glass, keep it on the island, reuse it here. So please, and I did submit a letter, a testimonial in support of asking for the two asks to recommend for you folks, the EMC, to ask the county for hiring a facilitator just to get the stakeholders together and come to some agreement, and to hire a grant writer specifically for this grant. It doesn't have to be a full-time grant writer forever for this specific grant. A lot of work has already gone into the research. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Melissa?
Yeah, so I guess I have a couple of comments and a couple of questions. So the thing about, I think that the thing that seems to put us in a really good position to receive this grant, even though Georgine, like you said, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of competition, is the fact that 40% of this money is going to go towards rural and lower socioeconomic areas. And so we, obviously we fall into that category. And I guess one of my questions is, since we have Tim Richards here, we have a council member here, what would it take to hire someone, or where do we have the money to fund the facilitator who they've already found? Do we have the money to fund a grant writer, and if so, how do we get that ball rolling? Because we have a limited amount of time. It seems like, like you said, Georgine, fall is right around the corner. We don't know exactly when this grant's going to be made available. So it seems like we kind of really need to get the ball rolling. So I guess I'd like to ask, since Tim Richards is here, I believe, if he's still on,
I am.
What are the steps we need to take to make this happen?
Okay, Georgine, okay for me to respond?
Oh, yes, please do.
Okay. Hiring someone, it would probably need to be a contract hire as opposed to an employee hire. And that is possible through Department of Finance. But this would have to be supported by the Department of Environmental Management, and Ramsey would need to weigh in on that. The question is, do we have the funds to do that? And my short answer obviously depends what the cost is. But my short answer is I think the funding is there because we are in between budget cycles. This is not a budgeted item. However, there is some funds available from our budget because we tried to cut the collections, but we didn't get that done. So there is a little bit of funding there. And what kind of dollars are we talking about? Because this is hiring a grant writer specifically for this grant, correct?
That is the recommendation.
Maybe Jennifer would.
Yeah, that's the,
Well, it seems like it'd be a temporary position, right? Sorry, go ahead.
yeah,
Jennifer.
just to, contract the dollar amount on the facilitator. I'm not 100% sure. And then
Give me a ballpark. Do we have a ballpark?
I mean,
know
it
grant
depends.
writers.
It depends on
So-
if it's just one meeting or if it's multiple, a series of meetings. It depends.
Okay,
it's not,
so-
we're looking at less than $5,000, like under
Okay.
that.
I would believe that there is funding available to actually get this done because that's very modest. It would have to go through environmental management, it would have to go through Department of Finance. It would be a contract hire specifically for this. And I can advocate for you to get this done, but we need to have the exact plan to get this done as quickly as possible because we're going to be out of time for me to submit this if that's what we want to do. So we have to get this as quickly as possible, and then it has to go through finance, and I'll talk to finance. I'll ring them up and see if we can get. I'm going to use a budget of $5,000 or less.
I believe that if we were talking about a grant writer, it might be more than that. I think she was talking about the facilitator and holding a couple of meetings. Ramsey and or Senna, could you talk about the availability of grant writers and how much that's likely to cost?
Did you call me?
Georgianne, just to clear some of the confusions, R&D under Doug Adams and Riley Otto, they were given that task to hire grant writers for the county to chase grants. Sarah Freeman, I think she's been working with Jennifer, I would imagine Jennifer and Senna. So Senna, maybe you need to talk about the process with you and R&D. And definitely dig deep. They are grant writers and they very familiar, consultant that is very familiar with the process and how to chase money and get money. And I think we requested to continue having dig deep to do so, but I think Tim is right. We need to work with finance and possibly R&D to make sure that they focus on that grant and pay extra attention so we don't lose it. If not, maybe we could branch out and contract dig deep consulting to finalize the process. But Senna, I know you and Brenda have been working on the grants and chasing grants. Any updates?
Yeah, so we've been, the last that I heard, because I don't know, my timing is off, but I know that the mayor had wanted to allocate X amount of money for grant writing. The last I heard, and I was out for quite some time. The last I heard from Brenda was that there were some grant writing capacity available to us. How much it would be, I really don't know. So I'd have to reconnect with Brenda on that one. So, and this is through R&D.
I know we have Roy Cadota was wanting to make comment. Are you still on, Roy?
Yes, sir. I know you guys trying to use this grant money for things like a central location, like a what is that called? Jennifer, you specifically said a park like thing, a park structure. Yeah.
Resource recovery park.
Yes. This was in 75, but I was in school. I went to university. It was Oregon, but what they did was pretty good. I mean, they had a tipping fee I don't know about tipping fees because people are not into tipping fees, but there is an alternative where you, what we used to do was we used to drive into that location, right? And then we'd stop at first, maybe drop off the cardboard, then we'd drop, and the tipping fee was $10 at that time. So now it's probably going to be $20. It might be 15. I don't know what it is, but it could be compensated somehow. But you go to the first place, you drop off your cardboard, then you go next place, you drop off your mattress. The next place you drop off your lumber, and then so on and so on, you know, like glass or whatever. And then you would, after all that, at every place you go, they give you a piece of paper, and that would lower your tipping fee, you know what I'm saying? And at the very end, you throw your rubbish, and then you go to pay, and at that point, sometimes you don't pay anything, or you pay a small fee, but that's an incentive for not having to pay a fee. But is the county into some kind of that's a good idea about that terminal, but is the county into trying to do a tipping fee to save some of this material that's being thrown away? You know what I'm saying? Or would you just have the grant and just have it for free?
Well, I think we've talked before in this commission about people recognizing and trying to be more accountable for the actual costs of disposal and incentivizing recycling. We've got the challenge of moving from free transfer stations for residents. And how do we make that transition? I personally like the idea, but that's just me. Ellen, I think you had additional comment, or did you just not put your hand down?
Let's see, I'm on mic, yeah. No, I'm doing a search and pulling up the two URLs for Northeast, so, and
Yeah,
then I
people check
responded to Melissa.
Okay, check the chat. There are some links being put in there. Melissa, you had a comment?
Right.
Yeah, so Ellen just put in the chat. I just wanted to, I guess, say again that it seems like this is a specific grant, you know, so I guess my other question was, does R&D have the ability / resources / time to write a grant for this specific grant? And then I also just wanted to clarify and, you know, just say again that it's money for a grant writer potentially, but also for a facilitator, like Ellen just said in the chat, to gather these stakeholders and the survey respondents. So it'd be money for the grant writer and money for facilitator. So they'd be two different positions. And I guess I'm just wondering, like, what are the steps that are needed to take to fund these two positions if R&D doesn't have the resources or the time to do this?
Sure, Dean, let me answer that real quick.
Tim?
To do that, you're talking contract hire. Contract hire must go through Department of Finance, and it has to have council approval. So it has to be put on the agenda. It'd come through as a resolution, so it'd go through committee. 2 weeks later, go to council for a resolution, 1 reading. You can get it waived through committee if it's real time sensitive and chair agrees to it, but it'll have to get council approval for what I'm understanding you're asked.
If I may.
I'm
Hello?
sorry. Who's that?
John?
Oh, John.
You mentioned the KO transfer station. Much of what you have all just discussed is in the build out plan for the KO transfer station. The planning for the KO transfer station was tied to a successful civil rights complaint. It was tied to the state's long-range surface transportation planning process at the time. Based on the fact that we have a build-out number existing in the already created subdivisions, we have basically all of the numbers there. You know what the build-out population is going to be. You can project what the services that will be required are going to be based on that. So having worked on that, I would suggest that you can go to the planning department and get all of that information that you're just talking about. It should be on the shelf. And if not, I probably know somebody who does have it on their shelf still. And just as a sidelight to that, I mean, Puna has just recently been identified as the most populous district on the island. So
I certainly agree with you, John, that if we've got stuff that's already designed and data to support it, make it an awful lot easier to get a grant than having something that's squishy in general and, yeah, we're gonna work on it. And I think we do have a fair amount of work that has been done on the concept of a resource recovery park. But I think it's taking it, and EPA claims they're going to have or may have a 5-year dole out of money. So you could have a longer project plan that might allow us to do some more work toward a fulsome resource recovery park. It's an idea. Okay, I want to make sure I'm covering people who want to make comments. Melissa, are you done? Your hand's still up?
No.
Okay.
No. I had another I guess question, or I guess comment. So, you know, basically all of these people who wrote in, you know, the 21 testimonials were asking us as a commission, you know, to ask the county council to do this. So I guess we need to, would the next step for us as the commission be maybe to write a letter to the county council, you know, or we getting this on the agenda somehow on a county council agenda so that, you know, these positions can be funded? I guess maybe Jennifer, like specifically, what would you like from us as the commission? Like, what are your specific asks for us as a commission?
Well, if you support this idea of a need for, you know, stakeholder engagement to prepare for this opportunity, and just generally, I think it's a need in the county, right? Then yeah, recommend to the county council. Yeah, just a recommendation, a letter, that would be fine. Or however you guys decide. It's really up to you.
Yeah.
Lee McIntosh.
Yeah, this is Commissioner McIntosh. From what I followed, it sounded as if the Environmental Management Department needs to follow up on some work that they were looking at doing or working towards what has already been discussed. So personally, I think the commission trying to take an action, although everything wouldn't work on the right timetable, would be premature until we hear back from the director on where the department is, because that's exactly what the council is going to want to know, because you don't want to duplicate efforts within the county. And another thing that I noticed just quickly as we were going over the presentation was that it talked about Alameda County, a program that they had, and I just quickly looked it up, and they have 8 times our population, but we also have 6 times their land mass. So any program that they implement would fall flat if we tried to mirror such a program. So we're really going to need to focus on looking at our circumstances, where we are, and what best would work for us rather than just jumping on the California bandwagon.
Thank you, Lee. Okay, now I've got several hands up, so I'm going to give preference to commissioners first. Elise Robinson, I think you were next.
Thanks, Georgine. To piggyback on Lee's comment, I would like to know what are your thoughts, Director, on this report and the ask?
Sure, definitely. The MRF system is usually, when it first started in the 90s, it was really favorable because back then there's no waste collections and things start changing. Talking about California and other states within the country, when they start doing curbside collection, controlling the stuff at the source, because you bring in you're in the MRF because it's definitely labor intensive and a process, because everything comes in, you have to sort it out, it has to go through conveyor belts, and you have to sort it out with safety issues, concern to the workers and what have you. So that by itself kind of evolved to think outside the box, and they start doing more of, control the source. That's why the curbside collections kind of took place. And so as you bring it to these facilities, it comes cleaner, because you don't want to put your hand and your workers' exposure to whatever comes in the waste stream. So we are a population of 200,000. We're not one of these big cities or county in California. Lee's correct. Everything needs to be analyzed based on site specifics. So we cannot just jump on the wagon and say, this is what we're going to take, without analysis and pros and cons and costs and what have you, and how it's going to be funded, etc. But yeah, hopefully, as I introduce the division chief, he comes in with a great experience in that field as well. So I'm having my camera off, but I will have it on so you guys can let me introduce him as well. We'll jump through that, Georgine.
Am I gonna let you jump ahead?
Yeah, because some of that discussion as well, I consider him as also expert in that field. He comes in with a lot of years, probably him and I ties on the amount of years we have in the solid waste. But here's Mike Rivera. He's our new solid waste chief as well. Go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit about yourself. And
okay, just Kira's going to jump all over my case if I don't do this formally. I do want to hear from you, Mike, and am overjoyed that you're there. But I think for this issue, I'm being advised by Kira that we can't do official response and make recommendations, because we need to further agendize that. What I'm more concerned about is we need some more homework done by DEM. And it sounds like from a process standpoint, it's DEM that needs to go to R&D to find out, do we have a dedicated grant writer available to us or no? And if the answer is no, you guys need to go to council and Department of Finance and say, we need somebody so that we can get this money to take some action on. And then we would come in and support it. Did I get that right, Kira?
Yeah, so for purposes of sunshine law, I want to be mindful of the notice that we provided to the public, which was not to take any action formally to support the DEM or R&D to do something, whether it's to seek funding for facilitator or seek funding for a grant writer. The agenda item was specific to the report. So the commissioners have considered the report, and we are discussing But if there's any action that the EMC wants to take, it needs to be agendized on the next month agenda so that the public has enough opportunity and notice of what the EMC intends to do.
Can I just
So
say
we
one
have
sec?
several commissioners want to make comment. We start with Melissa.
The only issue with that is that that's a month out now. So
The EMC can call a special meeting if it wants to. If you guys want to meet next week to agendize something, you have the ability to do that. I understand the time constraints, but for purposes of sunshine law, that really trumps notice to the public. So I think it would be prudent to have DEM follow up with R&D to do some of that homework that Georgine's talking about, and then report back to Georgine and Peter to see if it's necessary to schedule a special meeting. And this can be the only thing on the agenda if that's the case. But I think it's kind of premature at this point. So I leave that to you to decide.
In addition, I think, Kara, it'll be good if you guys submit a official request detailing exactly what you guys seeking from DEM. Are you guys looking into the MRF system as a potential operation, or are we just particularly asking us just to chase the grant? But the grant has to be tied up to a project, and we need to know the project. So it's kind of, we need to have a clear direction.
Well, the point I was trying to make before is that we have an EMC approved, council approved integrated solid waste management plan and priorities. And there are large sections about recycling, reuse reduction. So we've got things. The issue is, what do you guys see as most important? One of the places that I recommended we put into our folder was the previous BBB grant application, where you identified the kind of people and the processes that you wanted to see put in place. I don't think we're at a stage right now to order which projects you should work on. You have the report that came from the Zero Waste Group, as well as the ISWMP, and you've got this opportunity. I think our biggest question right now is, are you going to be able to exploit the opportunity? And is it something where you need money and you need EMC to say, go get somebody who's going to write up that grant and come back through to us with, these are the things we are proposing to support with that grant. Rick Gaffney, you had a comment.
Yeah, I'll make two quick comments. I think it's important to remind the EMC that, number one, the DEM has already asked for a grant writer and been turned down by the administration. That request went in and it was denied. Secondly, the way the county has been operating for a long time, and it seems to be fairly firm on this, is that if you want a grant written, you go to R&D. The problem with that is that R&D is dealing with every issue on this island, and they don't necessarily prioritize that well, particularly from the point of view of DEM, because DEM wouldn't have asked for a grant writer if they thought that they could get their grants taken care of through R&D. And I also know from raising the question with the mayor directly that this is a point of great overwhelm, shall I say, by the administration right now. When you ask whether or not a grant writer would be available for something, the mayor seems to lose it, basically, because there is so much pressure on the grant writing system currently in place for the county. So that said, I understand that we have reservations in terms of what we can do, But the bottom line is that if we need a grant writer quickly to pursue this opportunity, it doesn't sound to me like we're going to be able to get that, even if we have a meeting next week, directly from the county. And perhaps where we need to do is to go to private industry to get the, or to Ely Moisenry and NGOs to get the grant writer necessary to get this done. Because we've just heard another review of all of the issues that are facing DEM in terms of pursuing this huge tranche of money that goes way beyond this particular grant. But currently, to the best of my knowledge, there is no grant writer working on pursuit of any of the federal money that's available in the largest tranche of money that's ever been available to the counties in this country. So again, if we want to get this done quickly, I think we really need to pursue it through private industry, private funding.
Interesting suggestion. I guess I would like some verification from DEM. Have you been told no? You have no grant writer resource for this particular grant?
That's my
Rick is
understanding.
right. We did add it in the budget last year, and we were told our R&D are the leads. So for the whole county. So
And has R&D said no?
no, R&D are taking the leads. And like Rick said, there's over the entire county. So from prioritization point of view, it's really R&D and finance, the one that determine really the hiring and getting the contractual agreements with R&D. We were told that we could assist R&D by providing the technical support to them as part of the application. And that was the role of DEM. But Rick is right, he hit it right on.
Elise, you have.
I'm thinking of a comment that Jennifer made during the presentation that the grant has to come from a government agency. Is that right? Not from nonprofit or private?
Correct.
So I'm now wondering, well, director, can the commission or an outside group support R&D with a specific grant like this for technical support?
Technical support, yeah, definitely. Anybody from the outside assist in filling out the technical information. I think Jennifer's report was excellent. She's shown some of the technical presentation. Great job, Jennifer. We got a lot of openings within our department. So definitely we would love to have you on our team. But yeah, technical information could be assisted by, the private as we work with them. But you're right, it has to be government entity that chases it. And that's why R&D are the one who's the face for the entire county when it comes to grants.
So it sounds to me like if EMC were to do anything on a rapid pace, it would be to consider at another meeting, do we want to send something to R&D to say, move it up, and this is why?
It also might be that we have to do the work or, create a lot of the content and they fill in the blanks and send it off, perhaps.
Yeah, Georgiana, everything also in the county is a high priority as well to R&D.
I know.
So,
I'm not sure how much influence we'd have.
If you want to open the bridges, that collapsing is a high priority as well. So yeah, I could, they limit it as well to the resource they have. But you're right, there's so much. Rick's right. I mean, this is the first opportunity we ever had under the Biden administration and the money that it's floating. But yeah, it seemed like we hinder the system by tying our hand instead of chasing it. But yeah, it's enough said.
Lee, you had a comment?
Yeah, through all the conversations, I've sort of gotten lost. I understand there's a grant being offered, or soon will be offered by the federal government, and the county wants to apply for it, but what would the grant exactly be used for? That's where I'm kind of lost at. Report seems to have a bunch of information in it, but what do they want to do with the money? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah,
Yes,
and I think the question is, or the comment is, at this point, at this meeting, we are not prepared other than to point back to the ISWMP, which has already been approved, adopted, whatever you want to call it, by EMC. We would need to have another meeting, I believe, to go and set, these are the priority projects we think you should tackle in this grant. Is that correct, Kara?
That's correct.
So I guess the question, Senna, you had a comment?
Yeah, I know, believe me, I know the workings and how slow all of our side of this stuff is. I just would really hate to have a missed opportunity if these wonderful community members are working their butts off, not being paid, and they want to do the stakeholder engagement really quickly, and the timing doesn't work to go through to get the funding. I agree, private would be better. But just that we're partnering with them, even if it's not within the ISWMP for this year. I mean, if all the work that they've done, and if they can pull it together to get a facilitator, and if it's less than 5,000, maybe we can all scrape it together somehow, or the discretionary funds, I don't even know. But I just really would hate to get bogged down in our governmental BS, pardon my French, and lose the opportunity that the community members have worked so hard on. And if they can find a separate, and even if it's not part of the, like I said, the ISWMP, or it may not be what the county wanted to do, but if they pull this all together themselves, but it has to be gone through us, is there somehow that we can not lose all of this great effort being put by, or if they say, we got the grant written, we're all ready to go, obviously that has to be something that we approve of, but anyway.
Well, I think that's the key right here that we're kind of stuck with. If DEM comes up with their list, 1, 2, 3, we're going to put this in this grant proposal. These are the projects we want money for, or the hires, however you want to describe what you want. Then EMC can come back and say, yep, no, we support it as well. It's kind of trying to pick out, I mean, the report that Jennifer talked about had dozens of different things that could be done depending on what materials. Are you going to do all of them? You're going to pick a few. What can DEM make a commitment toward? And so we need you guys to lead that. And when you have picked which ones you want to do, then I could see how we individually or as a commission can contribute whatever technical information for you. But I don't know that we're in a position, and certainly not at this meeting because of sunshine law, to tell you, do these 3 projects.
Mm-hmm.
And here's our recommendation. And the ask that was presented to us for go and find money for a facilitator and a grant writer is not a timely ask of us, nor are we the right people really to ask for it. At least that's my understanding.
But the county council is.
What is the role of the facilitator as you guys?
So that's one thing, Ramsey. Thank you for bringing that up, because I had the same thought about a potential facilitator. I mean, there's nothing that precludes any of the county departments from working with stakeholders in the community to gather information to prepare for this RFI or this RFA. And if that's the case, and it can be accomplished in public hearings that a county agency can put forth, then, I mean, that's something that DEM and or R&D, I mean, in collaboration can look at as well. It wasn't clear to me the exact intent of a specific facilitator. It seems like it can be accomplished by a public meeting or public hearing, having our agency representative kind of spearheading that. That sure would cut down time too, as far as getting the information we need to potentially apply for this grant.
And maybe that could fit with what Senna's saying. She could be the facilitator, right? Technically. She's shaking her head.
No, yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to, but, you know, and I agree, you know, because Georgine and I talked about this a little bit as far as the timing of this. I mean, we should definitely do public hearings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, for the next cycle, next year, like start planning for it in May. We start having convening public hearings or whatever, you know, just depending on how it goes, because this grant is a 5-year process. So, but for this time, it's just such a short fuse on the government entity doing anything. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, was the purpose of a facilitator, however you got the money, let's just say I pulled out my checkbook and wrote you a big fat check for a facilitator. You organize the meetings and you get them out there next week or 2 weeks. So there's no 30-day notice, or you reach out to all of your people and then you come up with, you guys, that stakeholder meeting, including us, we show up saying, this is what we think. And then there's 5 ideas. And then you come back to us and say, here's 5 ideas. Which one do you want? Because we're the technical ones applying for the grant. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the idea. And I just wanted to add that we have already reached out to R&D because we wanted them to play this role as a facilitator. And the response that we got was that they were going to wait until the RFA comes out, the request for application comes out. So we have already gone to R&D, and I think it's a capacity issue.
Yep.
And so if the county council can have funding to hire a facilitator, I think, like, let's get ready and let's take advantage of this time that we have to put together something that's really meaningful. And I just want to also point out that I think we should take the Build Back Better grant decline as maybe a message of how we should approach this EPA recycling infrastructure grant funding, because I don't know that they want to fund positions to do planning, you know, and so can we come up with the money on our own to do the planning part and then get the money to actually put into funding the infrastructure or whatever we need. And so I just wanted to add that thought.
Yeah, with the one difference being that the Build Back Better is from economic development. I don't think it's so much a message, it just comes from a completely different perspective. We just threw in, besides a lot of other elements, we threw in the environmental element and job creation. But thanks for your clarification, Jennifer.
Elise?
Thanks, Georgine. How, Jennifer or Santa, how would the outcome of having a facilitator hold meetings be different from the department and the public hearing platform?
I don't think.
Oh, sorry.
I don't really think they.
Be quiet.
Go.
I was just gonna say, I just think it's a capacity issue. I don't think that DEM has the capacity to organize something, and maybe it's slower moving, and we have the time and the energy that we already put into this. And so we've already identified a person. And so we put a lot of the work into it. And, you know, I see a lot of the role that Zero Waste Hawai'i Island plays is just to supplement and support the county, because we know that it's not for a lack of desire of improving our systems, it's a lack of capacity.
And the component that's a little bit different is when we do the public hearings, first of all, we have to do the there's a 30-day notice. And then it's not just that, it's also first getting the facility, going out and reaching out to all the facility managers, getting their calendars, it's just a long process to get the facilities, and then we have to do the publication. So, and for this particular, because as someone started off saying, fall is here. So we don't know when this is going to be coming out. It could drop next week, So, but I don't think the outcome would be any different if we were involved in the hearings. I don't know. I mean, does the public behave differently when we put on a hearing as compared with someone else? Possibly. So,
Director, is there capacity to hold public hearings
Well,
or a
that's,
public hearing?
That's the reason I asked, what is the role and responsibility of the facilitator? And Senna's being, as our recycling coordinator, she's been working with the group. So if they could find a way to work it through, I mean, she is the government. She could run it through with the private entities to make it happen. So between Senna and her group, I guess, staff, if they have the capacity, if Senna feels she had the capacity with her staff, that's the division that could be helping Jennifer. Because she's been working with Jennifer and Kristen and everybody else is trying to get into these diversion, recycling, what have you. So I'll leave it to staff and their assignments and working with Jennifer and her group. There is potential, but it's, capacity could be adjusted, but she needs to look at her priorities. Georgianne asked the question is, what is the projects? And if that project become a high priority, then it need to, Senna need to sit down with her staff and figure out, should we set it as #1 priority and take it on now because deadlines are approaching. So, maybe more discussion needs to take place.
I know Katrina's had her hand up for a long time. I would ask that you keep it short. We're pushing our agenda here. What would you like to say, Katrina? Unmute yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. And as a trained facilitator and somebody who's put on a lot of different public workshops and different things to coordinate and get stakeholder input, there's definitely a process that can elicit more information, more honest information than if the county was to hold a public hearing. I would think it's a both and approach. And I'm also aware of the sensitivity around the time frame. And one thing that I was thinking about, and though it aligns with what Rick was saying, is that the facilitation and the grant writing process can go hand in hand. It can be kind of the same entity that handles all of that as a nonprofit that's working in partnership with the government here. So something to consider as far as expediting the process, and something that can work more hand in hand, where we, through the facilitated meetings, gather the input and then are able to put together a draft of the grant that then can go through R&D that can then, be polished up and have the government final stamp on it. So that would be my suggestion to help facilitate this forward and to really bring all the pieces together that I'm hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners? I mean, my biggest question right now is, do we call a special meeting next week? In which case we decide whether or not we want to present, these are our priorities for a grant?
Georgine, where I'm at is, it sounds like for the county to fund a facilitator, maybe slash grant writer supporter. The other side to that is the purpose of gathering input from the community can also be done through public hearings, which the department does have the capacity to do. The timing is iffy, which would benefit funding a position right away. But if we don't really know what the requirements are yet, perhaps that's okay. And we still would need to use R&D to push the grant writers, the grant through, which we don't need to have a special meeting right now for that. I don't think.
Okay. Other thoughts from commissioners?
This is Commissioner McIntosh. I kind of feel it's a little too murky right now for the commission to have a special meeting to make any, to put forward any resolutions.
Okay.
We need more information.
I mean, it's kind of my inclination as well. DEM, give us what you want to bite on and we'll back you up or talk you out of it.
Yeah. I think for now, it seemed like it makes sense for Senna to continue working with Jennifer. R&D already committed to consider the grant request, as what Jennifer just stated. They're waiting on certain things to happen so they could consider it. We definitely, as a department, support you guys and support R&D of pursuing that grant to make sure. But I think my recommendation, Jennifer and Senna, you guys need to sit down, figure out. Jennifer need to understand that Senna is the government and the county that could intentionally be able to be your pathway into getting the grant. So you guys need to work out if you could accomplish it among yourself and get a strategy and plan how to lay it out, and we'll give you the support. You know, it's like any other projects we're working on. You know, the grant for that Puna master plan, same concept. We get a grant to do the study. We went and got the grant. We're doing the master plan. Our staff working with the community and the private and the consultants. So I recommend Jennifer and Senna sit down, evaluate what you guys' needs are, how you could accomplish it better with the resource that you have. And if you have difficulties, run it by us and the department and see how we could help you out, navigate through it.
Sounds like a plan. And if you decide that what you need is EMC input and a letter to whomever, come back to us and let us know. And we can set something up before the next meeting or try to set it up. I need to close out this part of the agenda and move to the rest of the report from DEM and have a chance to meet our new solid waste chief, whom I see looks like he'd like to sneak out of the room and run away and change, say, oh my gosh, what have you done to me? So if I may, certainly if you have more comments or if you've got ideas for what should be on the next agenda, or if you want to individually send comments into Senna or Jennifer or Ramsey or anybody, you may do so. So I'm going to move to item 7.2, which is the official director's informational report. And the first item being the solid waste division projects and updates and introduction, formally get him up close to your video camera, Mike Rivera. So thank you, Jennifer, and other members of the public. You're obviously welcome to hang in here for the rest of our meeting. But thank you for your presentation. Obviously something that we are all interested in struggling with as well as you. Take it away, Ramsey.
All right, thank you, Georgianne. Go ahead, Mike, just real quick. Yeah, tell us about yourself and so the commission.
Okay. Good morning, commission members. I'm excited, look forward to having some really good discussions. It sounds like it this morning on solid waste issues to improve our communities here on the island of Hawaii. Just a little bit about myself. I've worked in both the public and private sectors. My whole career, I've only worked in solid waste. My educational background's in chemistry and biology. I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, just to give you a little bit of background. I've worked in almost all the sectors of solid waste throughout my career here, landfills, transfer stations, recycling, composting, and just really excited about coming to the island and making things better. Just lastly, I also serve on the SWANA Technical Advisory Committee for Sustainability, and I'm part of that training committee, mainly focusing on recycling there. So I bring a different mindset to help the commission here move forward on improving solid waste for our island. So thank you, and I look forward to working with everyone here.
So just so we know what your face looks like, walk up next to Ramsey or kick him out of his chair.
There you
There
go.
we go.
Thank you. Welcome, aloha. And sorry if we scared you about
Don't
what
scare.
we're interested in. More than happy to have you on board, and a lot has been backed up. We are more than happy to welcome you and encourage communication individually. Big question, where are you located? Where's your office?
He's gonna be on the corner side.
Ancona? Yeah, okay. We are going to get together. Number 2 is, or I should say, Roman numeral 7, 2.1 II is recycling and landfill diversion updates, anything besides all the conversation that we've had there. Senna.
Thanks, Georgine. Yeah, I'm just gonna give an overview of the things that are happening, and then any questions afterwards about anything I didn't talk about, feel free. The infamous LCA, best guesstimate, late October, as you all may know or not know, I was out for quite a while with an accident. And then I had some leave time for a new grandbaby, so I'm back, and so there was some delays because of me. So late October, early November, I'm really hoping to see the LCA. Volcano, the CRC, the Certified Redemption Center, it will be, its last day will be this coming, tomorrow, sorry, the 29th. We've been trying to get a contractor to rebid on that, but there's not enough money for them to make it worth their while. And they, as everyone knows, with everything, staffing is an issue. And then now we're being faced with, I guess there was another break-in recently, and our vendors end up having their facilities vandalized, so they're not very interested in that. So I guess we're going to keep putting it out to bid, and hopefully something will change. But at this point in time, Volcano will not be having a certified redemption center any longer. Again, we're doing our best to get it to change that, but it's all that we can do. We are reaching out to nonprofits and the community sector, but still they have to work with the recycler. E-waste. So whichever act that was, the past, they were supposed to come out with, the manufacturers were supposed to submit a plan October 1st to the DOH about how they plan to collect and recycle e-waste on the different counties around different population centers. They requested and were given a 1-month extension on the plan. However, they still are going to start collection January 2023. We're really excited about this program. So, this gets into the whole EPR issue, having the producers of whatever, we talked about cars earlier, the producers that are profiting from this, their responsibility historically has been done as soon as that transaction's made. So now this is really great for us to see that we will start having more support. In the interim, we've been trying to through request, I think, of Councilmember Kimball, And just to serve the west side, we've been redesigning our program regardless of this bill that did pass, but we redesigned the program to offer collection on the west side as well for commercial, for businesses. There's a lot of mom and pop shops that, they can't afford to either bring it over, drive it over to Mr. K's, or they don't really have enough for Mr. K's to come and pick up, one computer or something. However, we want to service their responsible disposal of their electronics. So in the interim, we are going to be providing tentatively 6 events, October, November, and December, one in Hilo, one in Kona, that will be collecting residential and commercial products, e-waste or e-materials. I don't like calling anything waste. So we're really excited about that. We are really excited again about having the manufacturers set up their collections and see how that goes and how we can be all working together with them to provide the services to the community. The drop-off recycling program recently, and this may have been discussed last meeting because I have been out for a while, is that Ocean View has been added and we're servicing Ocean View now. What else is new? We had hoped to, and I don't even know if I talked about this at this meeting, we had hoped to, a recycling section, we were asking and tried to be granted permission to launch a Facebook and Instagram social media platform just for educational purposes and just to kind of to lighten up, whether it's a Dear Abby type, but just to engage the public, and also a place where they would know that they could go as a Facebook page for information related to diversion, and then just offer free tips and stuff. It wouldn't have been open for the public to be posting automatically. It would have to be screened by all of staff, but posting questions just to engage the community and to make, to create more dialogue. However, when I inquired with IT, I was told that we need to have some archiving, I don't remember the name of it, archiving software in place. So that would be a subscription that has to be in place to ensure and protect us against litigation. So we will look into that and plan budget for that. And then we will do the ask again, because I really believe it's such a missed opportunity to not be using social media for at least educational purposes and information, and to engage the public.
That's a great idea.
Thanks. Keep trying. And then lastly, working with, now that I'm back, I'm reaching out to Councilmember Villegas's office as far as we were nominated to draft the admin rules for the sunscreen bill. So that's just something that when we talk about capacity, somehow that fell on us. So that's something that we will be starting. I don't know when. I've reached out to her. So anyway, if there's any questions about that, or any questions about other programs that we are working on, I'm be happy to take anything.
Any questions?
I think everyone's tired of recycling. Thanks, but y'all know how to reach me. Thank you.
All right. And again, I've got a draft email to send off to Mike about updating routinely progress on the ISWMP and some of the other interests that I and the EMC has had. So watch your email. Next, we're going to turn to item 2.2, wastewater division updates. And first one is our favorite Bahala and Nahale.
Yeah, thank you, Georgianne. Thank you, Senna, for the update on recycling. Kelly, you want to take on the updates on item 2?
Sure. So for Nalehu and the Pahala AOC, as was mentioned earlier, we had our public meeting October 31st. Our feasibility study deadline's coming up. to submit to the EPA October 21st. Our legal and our engineering teams have been working on finalizing that. We don't anticipate any issues completing that by the deadline. We developed the website. So if you would like to visit DEM's website, you can get updates on the project there. And the preliminary engineering review contract was kicked off this Friday. So we're getting organized with our contractor and developing schedules for that. They're going to be working on the preliminary engineering review or report concurrently as we do the feasibility study. And that's what I have for Nalehu Pahala.
Do you have any questions? I guess just a general question about the public meeting. Was it a good one?
Yeah, I thought Brenda did an amazing job. She's a great presenter. You know, I didn't get the total numbers. Peter might have the total numbers on the attendance, but I mean, I think there was maybe around 70 people there. Yeah, so it was good. I learned a lot, so we took down all those public comments, and so we'll be, you know, integrating that in everything we do.
Good. I really commend you for the putting up the website and having public meetings. I think, you know, communication is always key. It takes a lot of time and coordination effort, but I think it'll help avoid some problems in the future. Next is the Waste Hawaii wastewater projects. Is that you?
Definitely. I don't know if Chris online or Doro. If not, the West Hawaii wastewater projects, we just bid out and awarded one of our projects for the roof at the pump station, Station 19. And just to let you know, the construction cost is coming in at least 20, 30, sometimes 40% higher than anticipated, because just the construction market is just crazy right now. So a lot of people giving us warning, if we put a project out, we need to consider at least another 40% increase to that cost potential. So that project is being awarded. Our consultants are working on the sand filter and the headwork for the Kalakaua treatment plan. They're working with the housing development department as well on the Kaloko waste treatment plant units. These units going to be replaced with a different unit MBR system. So that's going to go up. I think it's probably already went out as design bid built for that community. So that it's a rehab of the entire treatment system for that community. I know they also working with Sean from Shifty on getting the process moving on the R1 to get us the sand filter trees started. And they working with the consultants on getting commitment and pushing the North Kelowna pump station as well from a deadline point of view. I know Kelly's working with our staff to collect all these deadlines and timelines and milestones, so she could be able in the next meeting, hopefully, to give you as good of an update as she did for the Pahala and Nalehu on the other projects moving forward. So if you guys have a question on the West Hawaii wastewater projects, we'll take it on.
Okay, just keep plugging along. That's what we want.
Yeah, the Hilo treatment plan, we met with the consultant. They already submitted the 50% design complete. So that's a good news where the pressure goes on. So the project's being submitted. So our comments, we met with them, we gave them comments. We staying on track for this project. Our intent to award the contract by early, probably June of 2023. So it's going to be bid out probably in January to March of 2023. So we're hoping that we get the 100% by the end of the year. So we got 3 months to see the 100%. So that's moving very, very fast. So, which is a good news for the Hilo. The wastewater master plan, Kelly, you want to take on that one since you're running it?
For the countywide wastewater master plan or Pulco South?
Number 1 and 2, since you managed.
Puna and Pulco are on
Okay. Thank you. I didn't actually have the agenda up. I'll do that next time. So for Pulco and the South Kahala Regional Wastewater Master Plan, the project was executed in July and is on track. We are working with the consultants to combine schedules into one master schedule. The project, the tasks coming up are the project definition report. We will be expecting a draft from the consultant by, let's see, 4/8. So what is that? March, April. So April 8th, 2023. And then the final will be July 8th, 2023. And so I talked with Georgine. We're going to include EMC, or at least Georgine, to distribute so you guys can make comments during the county review period. And so we're going to get 30 days for y'all and DEM and the mayor to review these types of documents. And then the wastewater master plan, that draft is going to be coming in around January 2024. And then the final will be a year later, January 2025. And so we'll hope to get your comments on that. And I'll keep Georgine in the loop of when those submittals come in, and then also when the public comment periods happen.
Great. I mean, our goal there is we gave you kind of our overview of the kinds of components we're hoping to see. And so periodically, when we come up with this tracker spreadsheet that we were talking about, periodically we'll be updating that and looking at are we seeing implementation of the asks that we've had in the past.
Yep, sounds good. And I did share your outline with the consultants. It's best, to get those comments up as early in the process as possible. So yeah, if you don't see those points in there, let us know, and I'll be looking for them as well.
No, I appreciate it very much. So anything else? Did you talk about Puna?
Kelly, have you mentioned about the upcoming meeting on October 11th, 12th for Puna district as well?
I will do a quick update on the Puna project, just ramping up.
It's on the agenda number 1, I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
All right, so for the Puna wastewater programmatic EIS and facility plan project, this project was executed in March. We have the Economic Development Administration. They provided us with a grant. Their report is coming due this week. ACOM, our consultant, submitted the final project definition report. The facility plan, we're continuing to gather information on the development of the facility plan. The programmatic EIS public notice was submitted and published to the State Environmental Review Program last week, the 23rd. our letters have been sent from our distribution list. So I imagine the EMC will be getting a public notice as well. But we're in the 30-day comment period till October 24th. So you might want to look at our website. Draft environmental impact statement will be filed March 6th, 2023. And we have, for public review and participation, we have a public scoping meeting that's being held October 12th from 5 to 7 p.m. at KL High School. And we'll be trying to solicit public comment on the project definition and things to anticipate and adding to the programmatic environmental impact statement. As I mentioned, our website is up. And so we will be also using that, just keep people updated on the project, but also you can make public comments through the website. We used a new technology called Smart Comment. And so there's a link on the website. It's a pretty cool website. You guys should check it out. We did it with a GIS story map. So kind of as you scroll down, pictures and maps change and gives you a nice narrative about the project. And then there's a link to a form where you can submit your public comment. It makes it easier for us to manage on the back end. So,
and I would say it's going to be wrap up comment before our next meeting. So if you do have comments, John, make sure you're sending them in as individual comments. So again, I thank you for getting Kelly on board, a planner, somebody who's working to make sure there's good communication with the public. I think it'll make a big difference. Any comments or questions or additional comments on DEM update? Ramsey?
Just to let you know, you guys know about the Iron Man closures that we're gonna have for our solid waste facilities. So there's a press release, I think it went out, but kind of outline our facility is going to be closed on the west side due to the road closures. So definitely try not to make any trips to our facilities on the west side, because October 6th, October 7th, and October 8th. So just keep these dates in mind. Watch for the press release. And I think that's all I have from our DEM. If you all have any questions pertaining to anything, I'll stick around for a couple of minutes to answer questions if you have them.
Anything for Ramsey? Seeing none, we will move on to future agenda items. Again, I want to encourage DEM as you are, I think we might have lost all of DEM, so never mind.
I'm still here.
Okay, Kelly, so, all right, Ramsey, if there's something you want us to act on sooner rather than later or in time for our October 26th meeting, let us know. And so we can get it on the agenda and we can move it fast. Well, as fast as we can.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be working with Peter to make sure if there's any items that we need to set up on the agenda as well. We start the budgeting process, just to let you all know. The budget process already started. So we know we just approved this current year budget, but it's ironic. The minute you approve a budget, you start next month working on the next year.
So again, if there's anything that you guys want to get on the agenda, let us know. Particularly, we've got the challenge that if we want to talk about it, it needs to be on the agenda. Melissa.
I'd like for next meeting to follow up on the grant and see what's going on with that.
Yeah, for sure. Also, you may have noticed that I had taken off the commissioner individual priorities item. And instead of having that as a routine, if you have something you want to report on, we need to get it on the agenda. It was a little too open-ended, and Kira's trying to make sure we adhere to the modifications that have been made to the Sunshine Act. So we just need to be careful that we are not springing any new news on the public when we have our discussions here. Next is announcements. Unbeknownst to me before, apparently there has been a nominee made for District 3, and we will hear about that at our next meeting. So, fingers crossed that's going to work out. Also, it's my understanding that both Rick Gaffney and Dee Fulton's terms end this year. They can continue to be on the commission for, was it 9 months, 6 months? Past
90 days.
90 days. Okay, only 3 months. Darn. Anyway, anybody knows of people in districts 7 and 8 that might be interested in joining on to the EMC, start thinking about it and consider the application program. And I don't know what we're going to do without those two. So I don't want to think about it. Our next meeting will be October 26th. It'll be in Kona at the DEM office. So that'll be interesting. Maybe we can go sneak around afterwards if you want to attend it in person. The address is in our agenda. We'll also still be doing Zoom meetings. I think that's all I had for announcements. Anybody else have any announcements to make? Okay, it's lunchtime. Could I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
John, a second?
Second.
Melissa, a second. All in favor? Leave them.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye. Aloha.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, thank you.